Yo, what's going on, guys? You got your boy AAron2420. I'm bringing you guys my APA Academy draft analysis. Now, if you guys are in my server, spoiler alerts, you would have learned yesterday I was in APA Academy. And if you're in my front office, you would have learned like 2 weeks ago I was in APA Academy. So, join the server. You'll learn. You'll learn stuff sooner than the average man. So, we're in APA Academy. We are actually taking over for Kelly, aka Under the Radar. Now, Kelly didn't drop necessarily. He actually got promoted to main league. So, of course, you got to make sure to check out Kelly and his run. I'm going to link him first, actually, in the description below my stuff. I'm not going to link his channel specifically, but I'm going to actually link his original draft analysis if you want to see the reason behind why he picked stuff. I'm going to just more so go over it a little differently. I'll explain it in a bit what I'm going to go over necessarily about this. But I'm going to link his original draft analysis. You can see his reasoning for picking these mods. It's actually not an awful team. It's not necessarily like a very try-hard team by any means. You'll see why in a little bit. But, I mean, for the theme that he chose to go off of, it's actually really well-rounded, and I could never give the team justice, which is why I'm going to go over it a little differently. But, basically, Kelly picked a really fun team. I'm actually really looking forward to using it. It's a lot of mods that, while you wouldn't necessarily pick them all together on paper, it actually is a lot of mods that I personally really like using. So, I'll go over that in a little bit. I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew. Kelly's draft analysis will be the first thing linked down below. Check it out so you know why he picks stuff. As I said, I can never do it justice. But I'm going to go over things a little bit differently. In my video, I'm going to go over more so what I think I could bring to the final team, why I do or don't think that. I feel like that's more so important because if you don't know, AP Academy, they're doing 3 drafts. It's like the main league if you've been following that, or AP Academy itself. They're doing 3 different drafts this season, 1 every 4 weeks. And I thought it was a really cool idea, actually, and I was a little upset that I didn't try and see if I could join earlier on when I did know about this, and then AP Academy I just didn't know was a thing until it happened. But I'm glad that I get to be in. In terms of the roster itself, the first roster that Kelly had, we're currently in week 6 as of taking over. Kelly already did his week 5 game, that's also on his channel. But in terms of the roster that was the week 1 through 4 roster, he had, I'm not going to go over that in depth, I'm just going to quickly run through it. He had Coco, Ferrothorn, Hawlucha, Gengar, Alolan Muck, Mesprit, Licky, Kingdra, Pelipper, Ludicolo, and Swampert. So it's basically Coco Rain, like really hard Coco Rain at that. So I don't know if I'd necessarily go full Coco Rain, but Coco Lucha, you guys saw what I did with Coco in ICBA, and that was without Lucha or Alolan Raichu. Imagine what I could do with Coco Lucha in APA playoffs. So, you can already tell that is certainly coming to the playoff team. I am going to make it clear now. Coco Lucha will come to the playoff team. There is nothing that could change my mind in that. So, my third draft plan, I've already promised Kelly that I would stick with his original idea for the third draft plan, and I'll go over that when it comes to that third draft. But the second draft, I'm going to go over what I think could come to the final team. Now, I don't know necessarily how I'm going to run the final team. I do know at the very least, I'm not going to go as hard Coco Rain as Kelly did. However, Coco Rain is still honestly a possibility. Thunder Spam with Terrain is really nice. In terms of what could actually come, I'll go over not necessarily, because I don't know what I'm going to fully bring yet, because I don't even have my final team yet. To put it in perspective, I'm currently, actually, the draft just started, and we're 5 picks in for the final draft. So that'll not be decided for a while. But yeah, first up on Kelly's team, he drafted Mega Diancie. Now, Mega Diancie's a really cool mod, in all honesty. I think it's something that I personally could definitely see myself using in the final team. I feel like that Coco Diancie, it's a little bit weird of a pair, especially for Mega Diancie. Diancie still is a really nice mod. It's an offensive fairy that can actually reliably use its fairy moves, I want to say. Because Coco, if you're using a physical set, if you want to run a fairy move, you have to run it mixed, and I don't know how I necessarily feel about that. However, Diancie is usually a mod that I personally lean special with, and then throw on, like, Diamond Storm if I want to go mixed. So I don't feel as, like, it feels like it's a more reliable offensive fairy, but at the same time, I mean, I don't know how I feel about it. It's a nice rocker, of course, so there's definitely benefits to it. I think that in general, I could definitely see myself bringing it. Nice hazard deterrent, and it's hazard deterrent without having to run defog on things like Coco, for example, so that's really nice, of course, in its own regard. In general, though, I really like Mega Diancie. It's a fun mod. I actually at first didn't like using it until I used it in my Cuba draft, and I started falling in love with it. So I can definitely see myself using it. At the very least, I did promise Kelly I would try my best to use my opponent with a week 6. That was one of the 2 things I promised Kelly. The other thing had to do with the third draft. So I'm looking forward to using this thing in the weeks that we have it. It's only 3 weeks, maybe playoffs, but we will see what happens. Next up, a mon that I am certainly not drafting in the final team is Zapdos, and that's mainly because I'm going the Coco Lucha route, or at least the Coco route. I don't know about Hawlucha yet, but I'm probably going to go Hawlucha. It's pretty simple, to be honest. But I mean, Zapdos is a really nice mon. Really nice speed tier. It's a really well-rounded Pokemon, and in my opinion, it's one of the better electric types in the format. It's both offensive and defensive, which is really nice. It has a ground immunity, of course, which helps a lot with the electric typing. I really like it. It's a nice defogger. Its move pool is decent. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it's not a bad move pool by any sense of the definition. I think it'll at least do really nice on the roster that Kelly drafted for this particular set of the season. And yeah, I'm looking forward to using it. Next up, we have Suicune. Now, Suicune's a mon I'm really 50-50 on bringing to the final team, to be honest. I feel like I've used a lot of Suicune lately, but it doesn't necessarily pair awfully. However, if I go the Coco Rain route, I highly doubt I'm going to bring Suicune. On the bright side, though, Suicune does pair really well with this team. It's a really nice wall in tandem with Zapdos. I feel like it's such a free mon, in my opinion. It can literally 1v6 rosters. I've said this several times. It's one of the only two tier 2 mons, in my opinion, that can do such a thing. That not only just like in a niche matchup, it can do it in a lot of matchups. So I feel like Suicune's just a really good mon. It's probably one of the best tier 2s you can get, to be honest. And I think having it as roster is going to help a lot. Next up, we have Cobalion. Now, Cobalion, I feel like actually, if I don't go the Kokolucha route, could very well make it to the final team. It has a really nice speed tier at base 108. I know that's sort of going to the base stats. You guys can figure that out in the end. But Cobalion, though, it just has a really nice mix setup potential. Really nice just in general as a Z-mon. However, I feel like that... Well, actually, no, because, yeah, APA does any Z-mon. So Cobalion could actually be a really cool Z-mon on this roster, to be honest. However, I feel like that just in general, that Cobalion, I feel like won't make it to the final team necessarily. But, of course, does have the chance regardless. As I said, if I don't go the Lucha route, I could very well see it happening. It's a nice fast rocker. Gives myself momentum as well, so that's really nice. With terrain, of course, I boost the Volt Switch, but that's not necessarily a big thing, as I'd rarely run Volt Switch, to be honest. Next up, Zygarde 10%. I could actually see myself bringing this to the final roster, I'm going to be completely honest. It's a really nice speed tier, base 115. It fits really well. In terms of countering other electric types, it's a really fast mon to do so. And I can just spam 1,000 arrows pretty freely versus a lot of teams. Now, I'm not necessarily the biggest Zygarde 10% fan in general, so that would honestly be the reason to deter it, if anything. But it does undeniably have really good synergy with Coco, I feel like, in terms of offensiveness. It's a really nice feature as well, so I wouldn't even need to Scarf it to just hit really fast marks, which could rival a lot of fast electrics. Things like a Zapdos, for example, it wouldn't need to be a Scarf Zapdos to actually outpace me. And if it's really a Scarf Zapdos, I mean, I can always just run, like, Yachi Bear, just make sure I beat any Zapdos variant 1v1. But yeah, I mean, Zygarde's really cool mon. It has a nice priority as well, which is really valuable on Rain, because if I don't have Rain up, it's a nice way to just be aggressively fast and creep Scarfers that would otherwise come for Rain teams. So yeah, I really do like Zygarde 10% a lot. I think it could definitely come to the final team, to be honest. It does help a lot. However, I'm not necessarily sold on it, just more so just with how I prefer Zygarde 50% by miles. Next up, though, we have Uxie. Now, the Uxie is a mon I think I am 100% bringing to the final team, to be honest. It's a really fast psychic type. Tier 3, I love Uxie to death. And people underestimate Uxie's potential, but this can help a lot with facing other Kokolucha teams, with the fact that if someone else does bring Kokolucha to finals, then they might not even need to bring their Coco necessarily. I mean, they probably will because it's nice for countering Lucha, but I mean, in terms of just bringing Uxie, though, it's a really nice switch in, especially with the Electric Seed potential. It can definitely be a nice Kokolucha counter for reverse Kokoluchas that would try and counter my team. So I think that in that regard, it's a really free mon, in my opinion, to bring. It's a really nice rocker as well. It has so much offensive and defensive utility. I feel like it would be a waste to not bring it, to be honest. It does take up a tier 3 slot, sadly, but I think that honestly it's worth it. It's definitely a lower end tier 3 at that, but I'd still put it on the roster, to be honest. I think I'm almost certainly going to bring it, especially because I feel like it's just so much better than putting a tier 4 Uxie on, a tier 4 Mesprit on the team. I don't know, that's just me. Next up, we have Moltres. Now, Moltres is a mon I'm really 50-50 on, because while I'm totally down for spamming Hurricane in the rain, and it would still counter a lot of the grass types that would wall rain otherwise, Fire type being weakened in the rain, I'm not necessarily sold on. However, as mentioned, though, it does at least serve that nice role, as it will always counter grass types, which very few fire types can do in the rain. Because fire is, of course, always going to be weakened. However, this and Volcarona, in my opinion, are the only two that really benefit from just spamming Hurricane as well as an option to counter grasses. So it's nice to just guarantee that grasses will be out of the way. Of course, I do have Holo Lucha for that as well, so I'm not necessarily certain if I want to bring Moltres or not. Regardless, on this team, though, it's a really nice way around steel types, as right now I have Zygarde, of course, I have Cobalion, of course, and I have Moltres, which are all really nice steel deterrents for Mega Diancie to sweep late game, which I really like personally. It's also a nice way to clear grasses for things like Zygarde, Suicune, Mega Diancie, which my team really does lack a good way to clear grasses as of so far. So I do appreciate it as well from Moltres. Nice speed tier as well in terms of patching between like UC. Well, actually, it's not necessarily the best speed tier. Actually, I'm gonna be honest. But in terms of mon that I actually invest speed into, it's a really nice speed tier because UC I wouldn't necessarily run a fast mon, and Zekin I wouldn't either. So in terms of that regard, it's actually a nice speed tier. But just on paper, it's really not that good in terms of between Suicune and UC. It's only a 10 base speed gap anyway. Anyway, oh, wrong arrow. Next up on the team, we have Virizion. Now, Virizion is a mon I could definitely not see myself bringing. I feel like in terms of grass type, I have better grasses. In terms of fighting types, I have better fighting type options. The Virizion is still a cool mon nonetheless. It's a really nice speed tier. It's hitting Cabalion speed tier, so it's actually not the best in terms of team synergy. However, it's a really nice way around Bulky Waters, as my team right now only had Zapdos for that. And Bulky Waters are another thing that definitely does punish. It definitely does punish not only Zygarde, but also Mega Diancie a lot. Helps with Moltres synergy as well. The speed tier is, well, the typing is just really nice offensively. Grass and Fighting, in my opinion, is really good offensive typing. There's not really a lot to say on Virizion. It's a mon I've wanted to use for a while, to be honest, but I've always put excuses to not draft it. I don't think it'll come to the final team, but if it does, I mean, it definitely isn't a bad option, in my opinion. Next up, we have Regirock. Now, Regirock is a really nice suicide lead, especially for tier 5, in my opinion. With Concept Berry being released, I think it actually has a lot more niche potential, in my opinion. I actually wanted to draft this ever since I saw Chase use it in PGL. I thought that he used it with a lot of diversity and used some really nice sets with it. And I kind of want to see if I can make something work with it. I might bring it to the final team. It's actually not a bad suicide lead for tier 5, to be honest. So I can definitely see it coming, but I'm not necessarily sold on it. That's mainly just because I haven't used it. I definitely do want to at least use it once if I'm going to bring it to the final team before I do so. However, I feel like just the rock typing, like I have better rockers in Cabalion and Diancie and UC in terms of just splashable mons into the team. However, I feel like just as a rocker, a suicide rocker, it's a really nice one. But then again, Bird tells me I need to stop bringing suicide rockers. I've used them pretty poorly so far in my MPL season. Next up, we have Meloetta. Now, Meloetta is actually a really cool mon in my opinion. It's a really nice bulky psychic, and its speed tier with the Relic Song is really nice in terms of making people have to prep for both the fast and the slow form. It's a really nice mon because depending on what set you run, you can definitely counter normal Meloetta counters. For example, this week, I actually, I'll go into it quickly, but this week I'm actually prepping a Meloetta that can counter the UC. Not UC, Azelf and also Garchomp. And the Garchomp is a mon that can normally handle a lot of Meloetta spreads by just setting up like an SD and then going for Dragon Claw. It's a really nice mon in that regard. But the Relic Song, I can Relic Song being slower than Azelf and then outpace it unless it's a Scarf set, and I can guarantee then just go for return, and that plus Relic Song will guarantee kill. So Meloetta is really nice in that regard in terms of just fishing for kills, not only switching in on a lot of mons that it otherwise wouldn't counter in fighting form, but then with the Relic Song, it can get enough chip and then slow into that form to then counter those mons that would otherwise counter its fighting form. So I feel like though it just has a lot of nice potential. It doesn't fit the best in this team, but it just as a mon itself, it's a really cool mon, and I've wanted to use it again for a while since my NPL run. I used it NPL Season 4, and I had a lot of fun with it. So, why not? I'm not sure if it'll come to the final team, but it's a cool mon nonetheless. Finally, we have Hoopa Unbound. Now, Hoopa Unbound, I actually know what Psychic type I'm drafting, like offensive Psychic type I'm drafting for the final team, so I don't see Hoopa Unbound coming personally. And I think if anything, just the Psychic guard would be the only thing I can UC for. However, I do see still potential for UC at least. However, Hoopa I don't see potential for with the mon I'm drafting first pick in the final draft. I know it, and I'm certain it will not get sniped. If it does get sniped, I might actually consider Hoopa Unbound for the final team. In terms of just the speed tier, it's a really awful speed tier in my opinion, but it does have really nice mixed breaking options. It's really cool mon. I know Envy used Coco Hoopa Unbound, and it was really nice for him, of course. However, I don't know how I feel about that core personally in terms of just me using it. I'm not the biggest Hoopa Unbound fan anyway. But yeah, it's really it. It's a roster that I feel like I could definitely use a lot of for weeks 5 through 8. However, in terms of the final roster, I think Mega Diancie might be able to come. I think that I might bring Suicune if I don't go Rain option. Cabalion might come if I don't go Hawlucha, but I feel like Hawlucha's pretty free. Zygarde 10% I can see myself bring. Moltres I could definitely see myself bring. And UC I could definitely see myself bring. Otherwise, I'm really indifferent on what I want to bring. I guess if I don't go UC, I might go Meloetta. But again, I feel like that I don't know about Meloetta. I think that at the very least, Moltres and Zygarde 10% I could definitely see myself coming, and even drafting this last roster run fitting those two on, plus my first team. Regardless though, hopefully you guys enjoyed. We're pretty close to playoffs. Currently, we're taking over a 4-1 team as of this video going up. If you guys did enjoy though, leave a like down below. Make sure to check out Kelly's draft analysis. He goes into the team far better than I could ever dream of. Make sure to check out all the AP Academy coaches as well. Their links are all in the description below. And I will see you guys in the Week 6 game where we take on Silver Smasher. Until then, peace out, guys.